Hello and welcome back to Microsoft's Flight Simulator. Thank you very much for joining me in this video, and thank you Bus for joining me in this video. Hello? I have no idea why you're here. Well, okay. Anyway, today we are going to be continuing with the review of this. This is the Big Radials Curtis P-40B Tomahawk. This is the second part of the review and the final part of the review. If you have not seen parts 1, I really do recommend you check out parts 1, because we talk about the modelling, the texturing, as always. We do a cockpit tour, we get ourselves familiarised with everything here. We talk about some of the features, and also we look at the price and what this aircraft is about. So do make sure you go check out part 1. Before we continue, also I'd just like to thank the developers for the kind comments on the last video. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it, and I'm glad that it provided both the compliments for the things you did right, and hopefully some constructive criticism and feedback as well for the things that I think maybe need to be a little bit improved upon. Also, I'd like to thank one of my patrons, Chris, for actually gifting me this. I did not purchase this aircraft. I'm not sure if I mentioned that in the last video, but I did not purchase this aircraft. This was gifted to me, so thank you very much, because it so far has been quite a nice experience. In today's video, we are going to be doing a physics test. So what I'm going to be doing is starting the aircraft up, taxi, takeoff, climb out, might do a few aerobatics in the air, I'm not 100% certain, we shall see, and then we shall have a descent and a landing and see what this aircraft is like, and I'll give you my final thoughts on how this aircraft flies. So make sure you stay tuned for that, and obviously whilst we're in the air, I will also talk a little bit perhaps about who this aircraft is designed for, who I think would be most suited to buy an aircraft like this, and also maybe looking at the sounds and other things whilst up in the air. There we go. Anyway, I guess next thing, or the only thing left to do, is to roll the intro and get started. So one of the things, just to point out, that perhaps does need to be worked on is a checklist. We seem to be missing checklists here. It would be really helpful if there was a checklist built into the sim instead of the checklist in the manual. Though the checklist in the manual is great, it would be awesome if that was also in the sim. I do not believe they are too difficult to make, so perhaps with the next update we can have a checklist in the sim available to us for us to use. Now, I am going to be using the most realistic way of flying this aircraft, so to do that, as pointed out last time, what I need to do is to stick those on, and we do have landing and takeoff tips, but I might leave the takeoff tips at some point. So that means that for the flaps and gear, we are going to be having to use these over here instead of just using any normal flap control switch, and then going to have to press that button over there. I'm not going to talk too much about this. I spoke about it last video. I'm just going to continue on as best as I can and as quickly as I can. So to start off on this, for our cockpit check and startup, we're going to check the flap lever is in neutral. So that's back, that's forwards. So I guess that's up and down, that's neutral. Landing gear, same thing, it needs to be in neutral. There we go. Trim tabs, you need to have the elevator 3 degrees up. So I'll set that to 3 degrees up. Throttle needs to be slightly open, 1/4 inch open will do. Mixture needs to be on idle cutoff. Propeller needs to be full forward. Fuel selector needs to be set to fuselage. There we go. This is all showing 50-50 at the moment. I think that is correct. I'm fairly sure that's... Let's just have a quick look at the amount of fuel we put in. Yep, everything seems to be set as 50. What I am going to do actually is going to lighten that up and just increase the amount of fuel. You have to be very careful with this, because the center of gravity moves around. You want the center of gravity, I believe, around 26.9 or somewhere around there. It does tell me actually. Have you checked your CG? Hang on, I'm going to look through the manual to tell you what the CG needs to be, because this is really, really important. They've highlighted this a few times. It needs to be at 26.9 MAC plus minus 1%. Failure to do so may result in an uncontrollable plane. You have been warned. Okay, right, let's continue on what we were doing. So that's all sorted. Parking brake is set. Carburetor heat control is cold, which is pulled out. So pushed in is hot. So we'll have that on cold. And then the cowl flaps need to be on ground cooling, which is essentially fully open right there. I really like the texturing in this. It's extremely high detail. Startup, battery switch goes on. Generator switch goes on. Recognition lights, nav lights can go on. Electric fuel booster pump, which I believe is that one, goes on. Unfortunately, I was told that there were different camera views, but I'm not sure if it's my flight simulator that's bugged. I cannot seem to move camera views for some reason. It just does not let me, so this is what I'm going to have to do the entire time. It's not a problem. Right, ignition switch is going to be set to both, so that's actually the magnetos. Like so. I'm actually going to switch this Prestone warning on. Prestone. Since it's a cold start, we're going to 3 strokes on the primer. That will do. Now what we need to do, and I want to see this actually happen. Not floodlight. Where is it? That's it. We're going to set to energize for about 5 seconds. And now we're going to go, now we're going to go start. And as it starts, we bring up the, didn't work this time. Come on. Not enough throttle maybe? Okay, we'll try again. Second attempt. There it goes. Okay, and we are up and running. So, okay, one of the things I noticed there is that I'm not sure if there's a sound missing. You could hear that there was just no sound for one. I was expected to be able to hear something cranking a little bit, even though it didn't start. So that is something to perhaps look at. Next up, I'm going to bring this down to about 800 to 1000 RPM. Whilst everything comes up to temperature. Right, and let's just keep keep an eye on all of this stuff. So oil pressure is good. Oil temperature obviously needs to come up, but that will in time. So if I just bring this slightly further forward, maybe up to about 1100, 1200 RPM. That should be okay. Everything else is slowly starting to come up to temperature. You can see the coolant temperature is coming up, carburetor temperature is coming up slowly. Manifold pressure looks good, hydraulic pressure is good. Everything looks okay over here. Okay, so far so good. We're going to now switch the fuel pump switch off, like so. I think everything else looks fine. Avoid prolonged ground running of engine. Okay, well, we're not going to stay too long on the ground then. We better get ourselves taxiing and out. Now for taxiing, it's very easy to get this aircraft going, as you can see. It just goes. That was very... you can see how little throttle I currently got on this aircraft, so we're just going to do that. Now, one of the ways of taxiing a tail dragger is you should be doing S's like this so that you can actually see out of the window, because obviously you've got this whopping great Allison engine. Yes, it's an Allison V12 engine, I've been told that. Whoa, I'm not sure what's happened there. I think that might just be in Flight Simulator's ground handling. But you've got this whopping great Allison engine that you need to be, and obviously all the associated bits and bobs that get in the way. So you need to be able to look around. So what you tend to do is you tend to S so that you can see what's going on. continuously. Now I'm not going to S continuously because I know that there's no traffic ahead of me, and we're just going to head down towards the runway here. Need a little bit more throttle than that. About 1000 RPM or so should be okay. And we're going to open up the canopy because apparently that is something to do. Sorry about the additional noise. And the stick needs to be back. Now, the reason the stick needs to be back is because obviously it's a tail dragger. Your turning wheel, your steering wheel, is on the back. So, if your stick's not back and you start lifting the nose up, for example, oh, okay, I cannot do it right now because I'm not at a high enough speed, you're going to have no steering. So you need to make sure your stick is back. And what we're also going to do is, I just need to check how far away this turn is though. And we're coming up on the turn. Yep, there's the turn. That's the turn I was waiting for. Just going to ease off on the throttles a little. There we go. And we'll just stop on the runway. Switch on all the other lights. Panel lights and floodlights might be nice to have on as well, just in case we end up going through a cloud or in shadow or something like that. That would be a nice thing to have. Now try not to use your brakes whilst on the ground. Obviously the more you use the brakes, if you brake really hard, you're going to potentially end up tipping the nose over, so you really do not want to be using the brakes too much on the ground. Right, that looks fairly straight. Okay, parking brake, it has been engaged. Let's do all the checks that we need to do. So looking at this, we need to have carburetor heat control is fine, auto rich full forward, that's fine. We need to mess around with our rudder tab a little. Set that to 2. There we go, that's 2 degrees. I think this needs to go into combat climb, which is about there. That's combat climb for us. Again, the fuel pump. Oh, that's okay. Well, that's I already switched that back on, didn't I? Avionics, do we really need them on? I'm not entirely sure. I have no idea what this is. Oops. Horn. No idea. We're not going to be playing around with avionics today, so we're okay with that. Everything else looks decent. We're going to do a test right now of our magneto, so we're going to bring this up to 2,300 RPM. There it is. Oops, slightly too high, almost had it. That's stable. Let's bring this down 1. Should see a maximum of 80 RPM drop, which looks about right. That one doesn't seem to have any drop really. Okay, that's fine. It's not quite so obvious. We'll bring this back down. Oil temperature's looking nice. Coolant temperature's looking pretty good as well. Slightly high actually, but it's getting towards the upper echelons. We're at 100 degrees almost. I guess that's because we've been sitting on the ground the entire time, so we do not want to be doing that. But everything else looks great. Now, in terms of takeoff, it's a no flaps takeoff, and we need to be very careful on this takeoff. So we're looking to bring the throttle up to 45 inches on the manifold pressure, so about there. And because it's a tail dragger and it has a lot of power, about 1,200 horsepower, you want to bring it up nice and gradually, and also you want to make sure that you have the stick back all the way, at least for the initial run, so that you have rudder control, because this aircraft is going to pull quite violently to the left. And when it pulls to the left, I'm not sure if that is a bug in this aircraft or if it's the ground handling of flight simulators, because I have felt this sort of ground handling flight simulator before. It does pull rather violently. As soon as the nose lifts up, it will start pulling even more violently to the left, so you need the rudder control as well. Essentially, as with all tail draggers and all high-powered planes like this, you're going to be dancing with the rudder, so you're really going to be carefully, as you do that, get the power up, get the rudders, keeping the aircraft straight, lift, push the stick forward or let go of the stick, any back pressure on the stick very slowly, like so. The nose is going to lift up, and then at about 115 miles per hour or so, you should end up in a situation where you can take off. Just a little bit of back pressure and you should take off quite easily, and then we're just going to do a normal climb out and we'll see exactly what we can do. Try not to use the brakes again. Use the brakes in an emergency. You've got a high chance of flipping the plane over if you use the brakes. So that is what we're going to do next. Let's see what we've got, and let's see if I can do this. So, back pressure, brakes released, very gently. I think the mixture needs to go forward a little bit more. There we go. Very gently. I'm waiting for that pull. There's the pull. There's the nose. That's 100. And up we go. That was not terrible. Now, looking for about 500 feet. We're about, actually we need to start looking at bringing the gear in. So at this point in time this is going to be difficult. I need to bring this up and then, oh, careful, close the canopy, bring the gear in. So you press and hold this button, it takes about 15 seconds, I think. There we go. That is now in, and now because it's all on hydraulic pressure, you need to make sure you bring this back down. This is vital. There we go. Okay, we're climbing, and we seem to be in one piece. Not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. Okay, so feeling that takeoff, that wasn't too bad. I noticed that my pitch trim was nose down instead of nose up, which was a mistake. I was wondering why it was a little bit difficult to take off. I had my pitch trim 2 degrees nose down. That did make it harder to take off, but once I'm in the air, it seems fairly okay. I'm going to bring this back to maybe 1 degree nose up. I'm going to change this rudder trim to about 1 degree now. And I want to head south today, so we're going to continue our climb. 40 inches manifold pressure is good. We do have to be careful on our tanks. You can see that how much fuel we're already using on the fuselage tank. So we are going to have to swap over to the rear wing soon. I think the rear wing tank is probably the largest tank. So once that near zero, we have to be careful of that. I'm going to continue climbing at the moment. We're climbing up towards 6,000 feet. And we'll start flying this aircraft and seeing what exactly it is capable of. It's a very smooth aircraft to fly. I will say that. I think I want to stabilise around this altitude, to be fair. So let's try and stabilise that. Should start increasing in speed a little, and I'll bring this down to high speed now. Cowl flaps to high speed. Pitot heat can now go on. Landing lights, we really do not need them today. It's a nice bright day, and I'll start bringing that nose down as we want to level the aircraft off. And I'm also going to start bringing the throttle back just a bit as well. Doing about 240 miles per hour, 235 miles per hour actually. She's pretty good going for an aircraft like this. It's very smooth on acceleration. It hasn't had a big impact on frames as I'm flying around, so that is something else I'm quite happy with. And it is performing rather nicely. Let's see if I can get a. If I do, this is the active pause. If I do an active pause and go into showcase mode, let's take a look at the aircraft. A little bit. Need to zoom in a little bit, don't I? Come on. There we go. That's not looking too bad at all. It's a very nice. It is a very nice aircraft. Just trying to find a really nice angle on it. I think that if I do this, not exactly the greatest of angles. You can see one thing that on here, that wheel is not completely in. Can you see that? So I'm assuming that's going to actually have an effect on my flying. Very realistic. Very, very realistic, that is. So that is probably going to have quite an impact on my flying right now. So I might look at trying to bring that wheel in a moment properly again. Come on, focus on the right thing. There we go. Interesting. So let's have a look inside. Let me see if it's obvious that is the case. You see, it isn't quite obvious, but if you look carefully, it does look like it's slightly down. So there you go. So I'm going to have to fix that right now as I fly the aircraft. Whoops. Coming out of active pause, always interesting. So up. There we go. Just heard it moving as well. There we go, sorted. Job done quite nicely. Right, so we're going to head south today. What I'm going to do right now is, whilst we're almost going to be running out of fuel, so I'm going to first of all put throttles to max. I am going to auto lean the mixture soon, but I want to see what it's like to bring this aircraft up into a steep climb. What happens? There's some resistance, certainly some resistance. The aircraft seems to handle it really quite well. It loops fairly easily as well. Although I was expecting the loop to be a little bit smoother than it was, but still not too bad really. I mean, it was almost a perfect loop. Okay, we are about to run out of fuel on that fuselage tank, so I want to see what happens when we run out of fuel on it. And what I am going to do now is also lean up the aircraft. So we're going to go to auto lean, which is right there. And I suppose I'll cruise today. Yeah, let's look at about 30. Let me have a look at the information that we have here for the cruise. So maximum is 37 at 2,400 RPM. Recommended is 30 at 2,300. So let's go for 30 and then bring the props down to match 2,300 RPM. There we go. So there's our recommended now. I could probably, feeling this, I could probably put the rudder trim to 0 now. There we go. 9,000 feet, this aircraft is happily flying at this sort of altitude. One thing I've noticed about the aircraft is if you turn it in one direction like this, it doesn't have any concept of sort of straightening itself out much. It seems to stay in this configuration. I would have expected perhaps the air to try and straighten it out a little bit more than that I'm feeling that it is doing, but that is not anything necessarily bad. Let's check the VFR map, see where on earth we are. Okay, that's not bad. I'm thinking of heading towards Northolt today, so I think we should probably straighten ourselves out. Although I'm just looking at this, it might be a bit of a trek going to Northolt, so I think maybe we should just try Cranfield, since we've done the cruise already. Let me try well, actually, let me first swap tanks. Once we run out of fuel on this tank, I'm going to see if we can swap over to the other tank, and then I want to try maybe an aileron roll or a barrel roll, maybe both, and then maybe one of those spiral descents. I'll climb up a little bit and see what it feels like on a spiral descent, because I think all of those things do need to be tested. But so far I'm fairly happy with this. I'm not sure that this aircraft is quite at the study level style, but then again, for the price, I wasn't expecting study level. I was expecting, actually, to be fair, I wasn't even expecting this. This is really good for the price. I would say this feels like it's just slightly down from a Just Flight product in terms of physics. I would say this is just slightly below a Just Flight product in that, and in terms of perhaps detail as well. But in terms of modelling and texturing, I honestly think it's on par with or ahead of a Just Flight product. And of course, Just Flight product are the products that are around this sort of price. Now, I'm not talking about the 146 Professional, which is a step above. That is going towards study level, but that is also twice the price, 3 times the price of this product. So you pay for that additional quality, but this is, for the price, this is really, really fantastic. And it's nice to just sort of fly around in an aircraft at 240 miles per hour, not really having to worry too much about things, and having such a nice view out of the aircraft as well. So, you know, I can look out there and say, well, there you go, that's a lovely view of whatever city that is. I have no idea where we are. Where on earth could we be? Northampton? No, I doubt that. Let's check the map. Daventry. So Leicester, perhaps? Take a look. See if this is recognisable. Not particularly. I have no idea where we are. Rugby? No, certainly not Rugby. Should be Northampton. Daventry's Northampton's near Daventry. So it's most likely Northampton here. Flying this aircraft is very easy. I can tell you that already. Actually, that gives me another idea for another image. I do apologise. Oh, you can just see now. Look, gears in. I do apologise for the imagery, but you know, I really do like doing this when I'm playing flight simulators. And admittedly, Flight Simulator initially did not do this well, but it now does do this remarkably well. So I think that it's worth making use of this when it does something. When it does something well, it's worth making use of it. Sounds changed on the aircraft suddenly. I'm not entirely sure why. There we go. Let's just use that as a potential image. I could perhaps change the time. Can you hear the sound has changed massively on this aircraft. That actually looks rather nice. There we go. Could we fly in this sort of condition? No. Actually, we probably could if I then switched on the floodlights. What is going on? Oh, I know what's happened. It's still using fuel, isn't it? Yep, there you go. Right, so there's a bug. It still uses fuel when we're in active pause. That is not ideal. And you can see that is now empty. Right, let's go ahead and do an aileron roll, and we'll do one to the left, one to the right. Should see which one's easier. Fairly decent on the physics. I felt that pushing down. That was less of an aileron roll, more of a barrel roll, to be honest. Okay, I'll try another one. Let's go to the left. Again, interesting. You do feel the aircraft nose pushing down there. It does judder a bit when you end up doing that. How about a sharp turn? How does this feel on the aircraft? So it's a very, very hard turn here. Seems to be handling it. Feels like the aircraft is kind of stalling out a little, but there's no... Yeah, the aircraft was definitely stalling out a little, I think. That's good. So good feeling there. Which makes sense, because obviously as you do that you're losing, as you're going around you essentially have no lift. So that the lift of an aircraft is when you go around, you've obviously got the lift off the wing, which is measured by half rho v squared SCL. But then if you're going around a turn, that lift is then being translated into an upward force and a sideward force to help you turn, and that is done by the sine theta, which is of the angle of the bank. So according to trigonometry, anything more than 30 degrees, in fact at 30 degrees, half of your lift is upwards, half of your lift is sideways. Any more than that and you're losing off massively. So if you're at 90 degrees, essentially the only lift you have got is a little bit of lift that you might have on your tail and the lift over the fuselage. Everything else is just, there is no lift. So if you tried to lift the aircraft, you wouldn't be able to. So that was fairly realistic, actually. That did work rather nicely. Now, in terms of flying the aircraft, it's smooth, it's simple. Again, we'll do a hard pull, and yep, just no lift. There's nice noises there as well as I'm doing harder manoeuvres on the aircraft. How about let's climb. Let's go for a climb. Bring that prop up. And I'm just going to continue climbing. Let's bring ourselves up maybe 10,000-11,000 feet, and I want to try a spiral downwards. Or actually, there is something I did want to try, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be capable of doing this. But if possible, I will try it. So this looks like a good climb rate for this aircraft. In fact, that is probably the ideal climb rate for the aircraft. About 170 miles per hour, 3,500 feet per minute. I'm doing a good speed here, good climb rates. We've got to be careful on fuel though. And we're at 10,000 feet. Coming up 11,000 feet soon. So the aircraft does have decent climb performance, very good. Let's see how high we can climb. Not read what the service ceiling of this aircraft is, but it should be really high. So we'll just keep climbing a little while. 12,000 feet, it's running quite nicely. Still climbing without an issue. Need to watch that fuel though. Okay, let's level off around here. There we go. It's pretty okay, and then we'll go ahead and bring the throttles back to 30, and then bring the props back to about 23. Ooh, that's a bit too far. Props are a little bit sensitive. There we go, 2300-ish RPM. Come on, 2300. There we go. Okay, looking rather good. Once again, I kind of want to see what this is like up from quite high up. That's a view. Right, I think I had a better view before, but that's a view. Definitely a really nice view. If I can get this correct. That's it, focus on the right thing. That's it, focus on the right thing there. And oh, should I? The one thing that I wish this had is that if it had the ability to mess around with the focus, the actual aperture. I know this isn't a photo sim, but still, it's just something that I wish that this had. Let's have a quick look at the time of day. See, that looks really nice too. That doesn't. What does that look like? No, but I think it was better before, like that. There we go. Okay, let's get back inside before we run out of fuel once again. So, flying up at 12,000 feet. It's nice. It is really nice, actually, at 12,000 feet. I'm impressed. That's how stable, well, almost 12,500 feet. I'm impressed at how stable this aircraft is. Let's head south again properly. And let's figure out exactly where we are. We need to be careful on our fuel. We're at 25% on the tank. We do need to be careful. That is what I'm after. Whereabouts are we? Okay, we have Cranfield below us. So should we bring this down to Cranfield, or should I continue to London? Given where Cranfield is, I think it might be wise just to bring it straight down over here to Cranfield. So let's see what I can do here. So I'm just going to do this, and how do I get this nose to dip down the way I wanted to do it? Perhaps like so. And we're going to ease back on the throttle a bit, and let's see. Yep, that is definitely a way down. Perhaps we can look around for the airport too, as whilst we're doing this. There's the M1, there's the airport. So we have the airfield in sight already. I want to see if I can, if I do a loop. I mean, the way you're supposed to do this is you bring it down in one big turn. That's the way you're supposed to do it. Obviously, I'm not very good at that, given that this is the first time I'm trying this. But I want to see if it is something that's possible. We need to put mixture onto auto rich as we come into the approach. Propeller needs to go to full fine. Fuel selector fullest tank, which is what we've got it on. Electric boost pump again needs to go on, although I think it still is. No, it isn't. I should have switched that off. That was my own problem. Oh, we are descending quite nicely. I do like this spiral descent. Flaps are supposed to come down. Gear needs to come down below 170. Cowl flaps need to, well, obviously we'll need to adjust cowl flaps. We left it, did we leave it at, no, we left it at high speed, so we're going to go back to that because we're going to slow ourselves down now. And there we go, we are slowing down nicely. There's the airfield. We're now slowing down very, very nicely. So let's slowly bring the prop forward. There we go. You can see the shadow on the prop. That looks awesome. Mixture goes back to auto rich. Throttles can really start coming back now as we try and control this aircraft and the descent of this aircraft. I'm not sure if I'm going to do land with or without flaps. Oh, I think I'm a little bit too fast though. I think I am a little too fast on this. Although, how quickly does this aircraft lose speed? Very quickly. So really, we can do S turns to slow down. Come on, come on. I think I can land this, you know. If we cannot, I'm just going to go for a go around, of course. Come on, gear. Oh, it's slowing down, it's slowing down. Really nicely, actually. But before it crashes, we have to bring this up again. Not up like that, there we go. Okay, so this aircraft is difficult to control at lower speeds. Obviously, we should have flaps out for this, but I think I'm not really capable of getting to the flaps at this point in time. I want to see what this aircraft's like when we bring it down without flaps then. So, of course, being a tail dragger, you'd expect that you can only land it on its front wheels. I have learnt, by reading the manual, you can do a 3-point landing on this, although I probably do not recommend it. Right, below 150 miles per hour, this aircraft is rather difficult to fly. I'm going to give it a fair amount of trim up as well to help me here. Okay. I have no idea how this is going to pan out, so I do apologise if this goes wrong, but I hope it does not. Oh, that's a bounce. Oh, it's another bounce. We're down, we're kind of down. Oh, I know what's happened. Up, 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 up. Continue upwards. One of my gears didn't come down. Why did one of them not come down? Look, you can just see it there. Ah, interesting. Okay, I would have thought that both of them came down because I heard the noise, but apparently that wasn't the case. Okay, now both are down. Very, very interesting. Okay, we're just going to do a go around then, which we should be okay to do. And I'm actually going to lower the flaps just a bit. That's not lowering the flaps. Right. Lesson learned. That's why it was flying a bit weird. That's flaps up. That must be flaps down. That's probably as much in the way of flaps as I want. Okay, let's try this again. So, we're going to hold about 150-ish. We need to really watch our fuel. Oh, we're almost out of fuel. Right, and we really need to try and bring ourselves back in for a landing. Okay. So that was interesting, to say the least. But it's a good test. It's definitely a good test for us here. Right, let's go ahead and prepare ourselves for another landing. There's the airfield. So we just need to get ourselves sorted out and try again without naturally running out of fuel, which we are low on. Well, I think we have another tank actually. Hang on a second. That tank, that will give us a little bit. Right. So, what runway we're looking at here? Yeah, I can see the runway right there. So we're just going to try again momentarily. Obviously we're keeping our speed fairly low at this point in time for obvious reasons, given how we want to land the aircraft and the difficulty I had on the last attempt. Looks like the M1 right there. So we'll just bring ourselves back around for this. So I want to be 150. So ideally what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to just fly all the way in one big swooping circle, but obviously I've made a bit of a hash of that. But not to worry. Oh, there's the airfield. Okay, here we go again. Reduce. It would be much easier if I had VR, really. Much easier if I had VR. And watch yourself this time. Now this time, that is all set properly. This time we have all the wheels for landing. So we should be, in theory, okay with this. In theory. Now, generally, it seems like you approach this aircraft with this aircraft at a much steeper angle. So, forget the puppy indicator saying white on white there. We should be absolutely fine, provided we can slow the aircraft down nicely. Which, again, there we go. We have. This time, it's a little bit easier with some flaps out. Obviously, it's not full flaps. Full flaps on this is like a barn door, as they describe it, which I would completely agree with. This is very much like a barn door, but I'm going to try and bring this down much more smoothly today. It just drops. The aircraft just drops like nobody's business. Watch the rudder as well, and let the stick. Oh dear. Let the tail come down naturally. As you can see, I'm not all too great with the landing. Okay, it wasn't a good landing. I wasn't expecting a really good landing. But what I have learnt there is that the aircraft reach 100 miles per hour and the aircraft just falls out of the sky. That's due to the elliptical wings, the wing profile, the lift profile on those. It just cannot cope with the slower speeds. It's designed for higher speeds. It's not very effective. That's why we have the tapered wings nowadays, and you have different shapes. So you have the rectangular. I mean, this is not really an elliptical wing, is it? This is more of a rectangular wing with the elliptical edges, but now we have the extra tapered areas for slower speed and things like that, and different types of flaps. Still, I managed to get it down on the ground, and it didn't just bin the aircraft, so that is fairly good. So who do I think this aircraft is for? As I just screeched to a stop for some reason. Who do I think this aircraft is for? I think this aircraft is for people who, first of all, like World War II aircraft. That much is for certain. Definitely for people who like World War II aircraft. This is also for people who perhaps want aircraft that are of decent quality, but not extreme study level. Although, that being said, I do not think there is a study level aircraft like this at the moment. So this is probably as best as you're going to get. This is also for people who do like seeing aircraft that are of really, really high quality. You know what I want to do? I want to park this on the grass, because this is an aircraft of extremely high quality. There is no doubt about that in my mind, that this is an extremely high quality product. The modelling is great, the texturing is great, the sounds are really good. A little bit repetitive in points, and there were little areas where I felt like the sound was lacking just a smidge, but otherwise, can I skid this aircraft? Not quite. But otherwise, this aircraft is really, really good in that respect. Again, as I said, the physics are not absolutely 100% perfect, but the physics are quite good. I would say they're, in fact, probably better than quite good. I'd say the physics are really good. So there is something to be said, certainly, about that, and Big Radials have done a really good job in that regard with the physics. What I would like is, I kind of wanted this. This makes it look like bits like a toy for some reason. Let's see if I can get a really good angle on this aircraft. They've done a really fine job with the modelling. Again, I think that is the best thing they've done on this is the modelling. They've really put a lot of effort onto that, and the texturing, of course. Not just the modelling, but the modelling and the texturing. You can see the effort that has gone into there. Again, just looking outside here right now, you can just see the effort that has been put into the modelling and the texturing for this aircraft. But that is not to say that they've skimped out on everything else. There are a number of things here that really do work very well. So the kind of people, as I said, people who like older aircraft, definitely. People who like people who want aircraft that are enjoyable to fly, but not all too difficult. They would be certainly up there in the list of people this would be suited towards. And also, I think people who want to fly, who want to see scenery, but at a faster speed, without having to worry about too much about jets and things like that, and flying large airliners where there's too much to do to really enjoy the scenery outside. An aircraft like this is really easy. It can do 300 miles per hour very quickly. Just top up the tank, see what you can do. 300 miles per hour, you're not going to have too much of a problem, and you're going to be able to see a lot of scenery. If you want slow speed though, this is not the aircraft for you. As we've proved, it is very difficult to control at slow speeds. Cow flaps right there. So it is a very difficult aircraft to control at slow speeds. It's something that you do need to bear in mind. So those are the kind of people who it's for. My final impressions on this aircraft: really well done to the development team. It does fly reasonably well. Again, I'm just going to point out, not study level fantastic, but certainly for the price, well worth it. What I would like to see is, I'd like to see checklists in the sim. I'd like to see a few bugs that I've pointed out fixed up. Maybe the sounds just need just a little bit of work on the blending. I think that could be quite helpful. When you're in active pause, it doesn't use, I'm not sure if that's a bug in Flight Simulator or a bug with this aircraft. It does not use fuel. You've got to make sure that it does not use fuel, because we saw that it used fuel whilst I was in active pause earlier. And also, I would really like to see an operating data operating manual. data operating manual, you know, the one that we have our charts. I'd like to see the flight envelope, some lift coefficients, some lift drag graphs, things like that, speed to power ratios and all of those kind of things. I want to see that as well for this aircraft. I think that would be superb because it just gives those people who want a little bit more simulation a better opportunity to enjoy this aircraft. But aside from that, extremely well done, well worth the price. So thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit the like button if you like this video, subscribe to the channel for more videos on Microsoft Flight Simulator and X-Plane 11. Leave a comment in the comments box below. Let me know what you think. Have you picked up this aircraft? If you haven't, link in the description box below if you do want to. But if you have, let me know what you think of this aircraft. Do you like it? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? If you can do so, please also consider supporting me on Patreon at www.patreon.com/ecgadget. Your support will be massively appreciated. It would really help me out and allow me to create more of these videos. I am trying my best to up the videos and up the quality, but it does take a long time. And also, you can find me on social media at ecgadgetsLP for both Twitter and Instagram. That is all from me, and I will see you next time in whatever flight simulator I decide to fly in next.